Alright, so let's do another weekly recap of some of these classic MLS matches. And today I am going to be talking about the greatest comeback in MLS playoff history. And I might even go as far as saying this might be the greatest comeback in MLS history. Although, if I said that, I can definitely show my bias of me being a Quakes fan and saying that this was just an incredible comeback that this team is. And, back in 2003, both the San Jose Earthquakes and the LA Galaxy was no joke. And both of these teams were considered some of the best team in MLS, and that the Cali Classico was really one of the most hottest contested rivalry in MLS history. And I think after this game, this just made the Cali Classico even more intense. And I think of all the Cali Classico game that I can remember in the history between the San Jose Earthquakes versus the Galaxy, this might be the best Cali Classico. And this is not to discount anything from what happened in the 2013 Cali Classico when the Quakes, of course, were able to score 2 goals to win 3-2 against the Galaxy, and those 2 goals was in extra time. This was something that we probably have never seen before in MLS history, and it will be very hard that we will ever see this happen in MLS history, especially the fact that if playoffs from now on is not going to be in a two-legged affair. But before I actually get into talk about what happened in this game, let me talk about the starting 11 for both of these teams. And as I said in last week when I did a classic recap matches of these classic MLS games, there are going to be some names that you might recognize, and I'm pretty sure every single players on this list has been retired because this happened back in 2003, and unless if one of these players were like at a very young age and that they're still playing probably now in their late 30s, I don't think any of these players are playing right now in MLS or even playing in their professional career. But in the starting 11 for the San Jose Earthquakes, we had Pat Olmsted as our goalkeeper, Jeff Argos, Eddie Robinson, Craig Wable, Troy Dyack, Brian Mullen, Richard Maroney, Ronnie Elklin, Manny Lagos, who's currently the sporting director of Minnesota United and former head coach of Minnesota United. Landon Donovan, this was back when Donovan was still with the Quakes, and I believe this was his second season with the Quakes before a couple of years later he decided to become an absolute snake and decided to join the opposition of the greatest comeback in MLS playoff history. And then we also have Jamel Walker as the player that plays striker for us in this game. Now, for the substitute bench, we have John Conway, Josh Saunders, Todd Duvan, Arturo Alvarez, Dwayne De Rosario, Roger Levetsky, I think that's how you pronounce his name. And then in terms of the substitute that came on in this game, we have Chris Runer, who will be remembered as the player that scored the goal to complete the most unthinkable comeback ever in the 90th minute. Ian Russell, who is currently the head coach of Reno 1868, which is the affiliate of the Quakes, and Rodrigo Ferreira, who will always remember as the Quakes player that scored the winning goal in extra time to complete the greatest comeback of MLS playoff history and move the Quakes to the Western Conference final against Kansas City Wizard. Now, in terms of the Galaxy, they had Kevin Hartman as their goalkeeper, Denny Calef, Hun Min Bo, Tyron Marshall, Kobe Jones, who is one of the color analysts for the Galaxy broadcast team, Peter Vagenas, Sasha Victorine, Arturo Torres, Simon Elliott, Alejandro Moreno, who's now an ESPN analyst, and then the legendary Carlos Ruiz, which is considered one of the greatest player in MLS history and probably one of the most lethal goals scored in MLS history. Now, in terms of substitute bench, they had only 3 players that did not come off the bench for the Galaxy. They had Dan Potman, Alexi Lawless, and Ricky Lewis as the only 3 player that did not come off the bench. But the players did came off the bench for the Galaxy. We had Chris Albright and Maurizio Cifuentes as the two player that came off the bench for the Galaxy in this game. Now, before I get into what happened in this game, some background information about this game. The Galaxy, of course, won the first leg 2-0 down at what used to be called Home Depot Center, but now it's going to be called Dignity Health Sports Park. And the golden goal rule was still in effect during this time, and I think this might have been the last season that MLS decided to use the golden goal rule. I mean, this was back in the early 2000s, where for whatever reason FIFA decided that the golden goal rule was a great idea, and that MLS actually did not copy the golden goal rule. It was FIFA the one that kind of implemented this whole thing, and they thought that this would be a great idea to end games quickly, until they didn't realize that with the golden goal rule being in effect, this would make extra time just incredibly boring to watch, because most teams, when you have like the next goal win scenario, most of these teams are just not really going to take a lot of risk, and that they are either just going to take their chances of heading into a penalty kick shootout, or the fact that they hope to just play it cautiously and maybe catch a team on the counterattack so they can score the golden goal rule. Either way, extra time was very boring during the time period when golden goal rule was put place, and it's great the fact that FIFA eventually realized that, and the same goes with MLS, and they eventually abolished that rule, which I believe this was the last season that this rule was in effect. There was also no away goal rules back then, so that means that if a team is able to score more away goals during this kind of fixtures, these two-legged fixture, that means that they are going to move on into the next round. And this was actually a key thing that I want to mention in terms of this match, because have the away goal rule actually was in effect in this game, the Galaxy would have moved on, because the Galaxy, even though after 90 minutes the Quakes were able to win 4-2 and the aggregate score were tied at 4 apiece, the Galaxy would move on into the next round because they scored 2 away goal rules, compared to the Quakes didn't score an away goal rule didn't score an away goal during the first leg of this two-legged affair. So that's why this is something that I think I probably should really highlight in terms of how this comeback is, and that in today's day, if we have like away goal rule in these two-legged affair, which we did have for pretty much every single game up until last season when the two-legged playoff affair was abolished, this comeback would have never happened, and the Quakes would have just fell short of this comeback. But in terms of actually talking about this match and what happened during this match, now in the first half, Jamel Walker had a great chance to give the Quakes the opening lead and get them halfway done in terms of turning around a 2-0 deficit in the first leg, but unfortunately he was robbed by Hartman, and it was an incredible save from Hartman, because this was a point-blank effort that Walker basically headed. I think he had like a free header during this play, and Hartman made an incredible save to keep this one at 0-0 and keep this one at 2-0 on the aggregate score. Then 3 minutes later, Carlos Ruiz would score the first goal to give the Galaxy a 1-0 lead and 3-0 on the aggregate score, before Wagnes would give the Galaxy the second goal and double that lead to now make it 4-0 in terms of the aggregate score. And both of these goals actually came on the counterattack. Like, I thought the Quakes in the first couple of minutes, they were dominating the possession, but they just could not deal with the counterattack. Like, anytime when the Galaxy decided to counterattack and trying to go on the transition, the Quakes were just getting caught off multiple times by that, and both of those goals was a result of the Quakes unable to deal with the counterattack and unable to get back into transition. Now, at that point, it was 4-0 on the aggregates, and I'm pretty sure, like I said before, I'm pretty sure every Quakes fans probably have give up the fact that, yeah, you know, it sucks the fact that we're probably going to lose to our most hated rival in this playoff matchup, and that, now we'll just need to just play for pride and maybe even win this game so that at least we can say that, well, we won the second leg even though we weren't able to move on into the next round. But little did everybody know, in that 15,000 fans that attended that game at Storen Stadium, that in the 21st minute, when Jeff Argo scored that amazing free kick to give the Quakes the first goal in this two-legged affair and cut that lead into half in terms of the actual score, that this would be the beginning of an incredible comeback and probably one of the most memorable playoff match ever in MLS history. So, as I said, Argos, of course, scored that free kick to give the Quakes a goal back, and that they're now trailing 4-1 on the aggregates and trailing 2-1 in the score. And then Manny Lagos almost had a chance to tie it immediately after Argos scores that goal, but unfortunately he was denied by Hartman, so the score stays at 2-1 apiece and 4-1 in the accurate score. Then in the 28th minute, Ruiz actually had a one-on-one opportunity to potentially give the Galaxy that goal that they conceded just a couple of minutes ago, but for whatever reason, he decided to pass it to the middle where there was no Galaxy player around. And to this day, I still don't know why in the world Carlos Ruiz decided to just pass it back into the middle. And as great as a goal scorer that Carlos Ruiz had, and you would think that he would just go all alone doing that situation, it's still kind of head-scratching that he decided to do that. And this would be one of many instances that the Galaxy had some big chances to potentially get that third goal, but they weren't able to do that, and it ended up to come back to bite them, and that it would pretty much turn the outcome of this game, where we probably wouldn't have see a big kind of comeback and just a historical event if the Galaxy would have scored the third goal, or even if Ruiz would have scored this third goal. Like, if he scored this third goal to make it 3-1 in favor of the Galaxy and 5-1 over the aggregates, I don't think the Quakes would have actually come back in this game. But instead, the Quakes did start to come back into this game, and that in the 35th minute, they would tie the score up when Landon Donovan would tie the game at 2 apiece and make the aggregate score to 4-2, and that the Quakes, of course, cut that 4-0 deficit that they faced early in this game. Now, I also wrote Hartman was lucky to not get sent off in this situation, because before Donovan scored this goal, and actually, did I say he was lucky not to get sent on? I meant sent off, that is. But before Donovan, of course, scored this goal, Hartman actually brought down Jamil Walker. That actually went 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, and Jamil Walker was actually taken down there, but the referee decided to play advantage, which Donovan, of course, slots it into the empty net. If Donovan did not slot that one into the empty net, there was no doubt in my mind Hartman would have got sent off. And he actually got a yellow card in this instant, which I guess maybe that's because of the fact that at least the Quakes, of course, scored the goal, and that, it was kind of a reckless challenge, and that it was definitely denial of goal scorer opportunity. But I guess the referee maybe feel like, the Galaxy have already been hard done with conceding a goal, so he elected to just give a yellow card to Hartman. But again, if Donovan did not score that goal, Hartman would have absolutely got sent off because of denial of goal scorer opportunity. And that in many ways, I think the Galaxy will take it. I mean, they would rather concede a goal at that point to cut the aggregate score deficit or their advantage to half, and that they, of course, conceded that 2-0 lead that they got, rather than having to play the rest of this game and play about 55 minutes of this game down a man. Now, the Quakes continue to pile on the pressure heading into halftime, but ultimately the Galaxy does a great job to ride the ship in terms of all the pressure that the Quakes piled on, and we remained tied at 2 apiece heading into halftime. Now, in the second half, Jamil Walker would score early in the game to make it 3-2 in favor of the Quakes and 4-3 on aggregates, and this was when you could definitely felt that some of the Galaxy player was feeling the heat, and that in some way they kind of started to to really put on the step on the pedal again, because I thought the Galaxy throughout this game, they were kind of put their foot off the pedal and they weren't really kind of going for it, knowing the fact that they had a huge advantage and they don't want to just kind of let go of it if they decided to just keep attacking going forward. And while I do agree that that's kind of the tactics that they would use, and most of the time that tactic should get you to the finish line, you also don't want to be too conservative. And I thought the Galaxy was way too conservative throughout this time when they had that 4-0 aggregate score. And eventually when that third goal was scored by the Quakes, you can definitely see that they were definitely thinking about not being conservative anymore and actually decided to attack a little bit. And they did exactly that for pretty much for the next 20 minutes. And they could have also got that third goal in the 57th minute when Pat Onstad made an incredible double save to keep the Quakes in the lead and a goal behind. And this double save wasn't just any double save. This was just close range double save that somehow, in some way, the Galaxy wasn't able to tie the game up. And that, again, this was another moment where if the Galaxy would have got that third goal, this would have probably put the tie away, and that we would never even talk about the greatest comeback in playoff history if the Galaxy was able to score the third goal in this. But instead, the aggregate score was still only one goal difference, and the Quakes still had a chance to potentially get the equalizer in terms of the aggregates. And I also wrote both teams had spells to potentially score the next goal. Again, the Galaxy, they really stepped on the front foot and stopped being too conservative after they conceded that third goal. And, for the last 10 minutes, they kind of started to be a little bit conservative again, in that they were trying to seize this one out and hope that the Quakes wasn't going to score the next goal. And, the Quakes, even though late in the game they had a lot of possession and had chances to potentially score the next goal, it didn't felt like they were going to do that. And it seemed like the Galaxy was able to just hold on and avoid just an embarrassing kind of situation where they blew a 4-0 aggregates lead. That until the 90th minute, when Chris Runer would score the tying goal to make one of the most incredible, or not even one of the most incredible, but probably the most improbable comeback you will ever see. And the assist was actually from Rooney, who, I look back at that goal that Runer scored, which was a great goal that Chris Runer scored, but a lot of the credit has to go to Richard Maroney, who just delivered an absolute dime to the back post for Runer to basically headed that one. And just like that, the score was now 4-2 in favor of the Quakes, and the aggregate is all tied up at 4 apiece. And remember, since there is no away goal rule, and technically away goal did not exist up until the latter season of MLS, we were going to be heading into extra time. And indeed, that's what we were. And in the 96th minute, Rodrigo Ferrer would score the golden goal rule to give the Quakes the 5-2 lead and the 5-4 score on the aggregates, and that would be the winning goal, as it was the golden goal rule of this game. And yeah, I mean, this was just an incredible kind of comeback, and that I think, even down the line, and even when I wasn't a Quakes fan back then and able to kind of witness this game either live in person or actually watch on the TV, I will always admire this as kind of the greatest comeback ever in Quakes history. And that the other thing that makes this comeback even more special is that it came against our biggest rival. And little do we know that a couple of weeks later, after we were able to beat our biggest rival to move on into the next round, we would also win the MLS Cup in our biggest rival stadium against the Chicago Fire in the 2003 MLS Cup. And that, I guess, whenever people talk about the Quakes and the Galaxy and how, Galaxy fan might say, well, we have more stars than you, and we have more more MLS Cup than you have so far, which, you know, they of course would won that argument, but we can always make the rebuttal argument of the fact that we won the MLS Cup at your own stadium, and that will be something that will never happen again, since now MLS doesn't have MLS Cup during neutral. That will happen in neutral venue, they won't have neutral venue maybe until this year, where, you know, we don't know what's going to happen this year, whether or not, if they're even thinking about playing an MLS Cup during the winter, and they have to have it at a neutral venue on a warm weather venue. But at least we can always say the fact that we have beat the Galaxy in their home ground, and that unless if MLS decide to never have MLS Cup in warm weather venue, that is going to be a statement that forever is going to be true. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this game, and that if you were a Quakes fan or a Galaxy fan remembering this game, what do you remember about this game, and where were you during this game? I mean, if you were a Quakes fan back in 2003, were you one of the 15,000 people that were able to witness an instant classic and something that will remember down the year in MLS history, in this amazing comeback that the Quakes have done? Let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.